The Discourses of Christ of the Last Days.
Words on Knowing God's Work and Disposition. Excerpt. The contents of the Word appears in the flesh are particularly rich, include various aspects of the truth, as well as some prophetic statements, foretelling the state of ages to come. In fact, the prophecies are very general, with the majority of the words contained within this book discussing life entry, exposing human nature, and speaking on how to know God and His disposition. And as for what age is to come, how many ages there will be, what kinds of circumstances mankind will enter into, isn't true that there is no specific blueprint, specific reference, or even specific era in this book. This is to say that people need not concern themselves with ages to come, that time has not yet been reached, and it is still very far away. Even if I were to talk to you about these things, you wouldn't understand. And in addition, people don't need to understand these things right now. Those things have little relation to people's change in life disposition. All you need to understand are those words that expose human nature. This is enough. In the past, there were some prophecies made, such as the millennial kingdom, God and man entering into rest together, and also regarding the age of word. The words of prophecy are all concerning times soon to come. Those that are not mentioned are things that are very far away. You do not need to study those things that are far away. That which you should not know will not be told to you. That which you should know is the whole truth that comes from God. For example, God's disposition expressed toward man, what God has and is which is revealed by God's words, an exposure of the nature of man through the judgment and chastisement, as well as the direction in life given to people by God. Because God's work of saving people includes these things at its core. The purpose of God saying these things when doing the work of managing humanity is mainly to conquer and save people, and to change the disposition of people. Currently, the age of word is a realistic age, is the age of the truth conquering and saving man. There will be more words later. There is much that has not yet been said. Some people think that these current words are God's expression in its entirety. This is a hugely mistaken interpretation, because the work of the age of word has just had its start in China. But there will be more words after God publicly appears and works in the future. How the age of kingdom will be, what kind of destination humanity will enter, what will happen after entering that destination, what life will be like for humanity then, what level human instinct can reach, what kind of leadership, and what kind of provisions will be needed, etc. All of this is included in the work of the age of word. The all-inclusivity of God is not as you imagine only in the word appears in the flesh. Can the expression of God's disposition and the work of God be as simple as you imagine it to be? God's all-inclusivity, omnipresence, omnipotence, and supremeness are not empty words. If you say that the book the Word appears in the flesh represents everything of God, and that these words end all of God's management, then you have viewed God in too small a way. Is this not delineating God again? You must know that these words are a very small part of the all-inclusive God. All religious circles have delineated God within the Bible. And today, are you not delineating Him too? Do you not know that delineating God is demeaning God? That this is to condemn and blaspheme God? Currently, most people think what God has said during the last days is all in the Word appears in the flesh. There are no more words from God. That is all God has said, right? It is a big mistake to think this way. The words contained within the Word appears in the flesh are only the opening words of God's work in the last days. A part of the words of this work. These words are mainly concerned with the truths of visions. Later on, there will also be words spoken in regard to the many details of practice. Therefore, the release of the Word appears in the flesh to the public does not mean God's work has come to the end of a phase. Much less does it mean that God's work of judgment in the last days has come to a conclusive end. God still has many words to express, and even once these words have been spoken, one cannot say that all of God's management work has concluded. When the work of the entire universe is finished, one can only say that the 6,000-year management plan has ended. But at this time, will there still be people existing in this universe? As long as life exists, as long as humanity exists, then God's management must still be in continuation. When the 6,000-year management plan is complete, as long as there exists humanity, life, and this universe, then God will still be managing it all. But it will not be called the 6,000-year management plan any longer. Now it is referred to as God's management. Perhaps it will be called a different name in the future. That will be another life for humanity and God. It cannot be said that God will still be using the words of today to lead people, as these words are only suitable for this period of time. Therefore, do not delineate the work of God at any time. Some say, God only provides people with these words, and nothing else. God can only say these words. This also is confining God within a certain scope. This is just like, currently in the age of kingdom, applying the words spoken in the age of Jesus. Would that be appropriate? Some of the words would apply, and some need to be abolished. So then you cannot say that the words of God can never be abolished. Do people readily delineate things? In some areas, they do delineate God. Perhaps one day you will read, "The Word appears in the flesh," just like people read the Bible today, not keeping up with God's footsteps. Now is the right time to read, "The Word appears in the flesh." There's no telling in how many years that reading it will be like looking at an outdated calendar, because there will be something new to replace the old at that time. People's needs are produced and developed according to the work of God. At that time, human nature and the instincts and attributes that people should have will have somewhat changed. After this world changes, the needs of humanity will be different. Some ask, will God talk later on? Some will come to the conclusion that God will not be able to talk, because when the work of the age of Word is finished, nothing else can be said, and any other words will be false. Is this not also wrong? It is easy for mankind to make the mistake of delineating God. People are apt to cling to the past and delineate God. They clearly do not know Him, but still wantonly delineate His work. People have such arrogant nature. They always wish to hold on to the old notions of the past and keep the things of days gone by lodged in their hearts. They use them as their capital, being arrogant and conceited, thinking that they understand everything, and having the gall to delineate the work of God. In doing this, do they not pass judgment on God? In addition, people give no consideration to God's new work. This shows that it is difficult for them to accept new things, and yet they still blindly delineate God. People are so arrogant that they are devoid of reason. They listen to no one, and don't even accept the words of God. Such is the nature of man, totally arrogant and self-righteous, and without the slightest bit of submission. This was the way the Pharisees were when they condemned Jesus. They thought, "Even if you are right, I still won't follow you. Only Jehovah is the true God." Today, there are also some who say, "He's Christ? I wouldn't follow him even if he really were Christ." Do people like this exist? There are a lot of religious people who are like that. This shows that man's disposition is too corrupt, that people are beyond salvation. Among the saints through the ages, Moses and Peter were the only ones who really knew God, and they were approved of by God. However, could they fathom God? What they grasped is also limited. They themselves did not dare say that they knew God. Those who really know God do not delineate Him, because they realize that God is incalculable and immeasurable. Those who do not know God are the ones who are apt to delineate Him and what He has and is. They are full of imagination about God, easily produce notions about everything God has done. So those who believe that they know God are the most resistant to God, and are the people that are in the most danger.